Hello, hello, everyone. Hope you're doing very, very well. Today, our guest is...
Stephanie from Changing Scripts podcast and YouTube channel.
Yay! Awesome. I'm very, very excited for this. We're going to do basically similar kind of deal as usual when I bring on a guest for the first time. We'll do roughly a 5-10 minute, probably 10 actually, I think today. Probably like a 10-minute chat today, roughly. About well, you guys will see what it's about. Basically, it's going to be the whole theme is going to be about how everyone has a different path when learning a language, and we're going to be mostly focused on something really interesting, which is how really opposite we are in terms of a particular language that we're learning right now. So let's jump right in. I guess, Steph,
Yes.
give us your what's your story? What's your 60-second story about you?
Oh dear God. I'm an overtalker.
Interviewing, so it's like a job interview.
Sure. I was teaching overseas for about 15 years. Went back and forth for grad school a couple of times, and now in China. I'm not teaching, but I'm still kind of in the industry doing language testing.
Nice. So what is that? What is language testing?
What is language testing? It's testing languages.
So like you run like a lot of the language proficiency tests, you mean?
I have a hand in that. I can't get too specific.
Okay. Fair
yeah.
enough. That's okay. Nice. What, and you said you're in China, Shanghai?
Shanghai, China. Mm-hmm.
Nice. How long have you been there?
I think we're coming up on 1.5 years.
That long?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you'd been there for maybe like a month or something. I don't know why I thought that.
A lot of my older videos were when I was traveling a lot last year. So I was all over different parts of China, like trying to get part of, well, right now it's just my apartment, but I try to get part of China in the video sometimes, or as often as I can, because it's part of the greater context of where I am. So that might have been why. But yeah, it's been a year. Yeah, actually, I think it's exactly 1.5 years because we came back in January of 2017.
Interesting. Out of curiosity, do people speak, like, is English prevalent enough in Shanghai?
It's very, very contextual. If you're in central Shanghai and you're in a place like a business or a shopping area that has a big international population coming through, the English level is really high, especially for Northeast Asia. If you compare Shanghai and Tokyo, sorry, Tokyo, but Shanghai kicks butt when it comes to English language. It really, really does. Also, I'm in a lot of meetup groups for a lot of book groups and a lot of like arty kind of things. And it's really, really mixed between locals and foreigners. And the locals' English level is just phenomenal because all the meetings are run in English as a common language. And the locals' English level is just absolutely phenomenal. Like They rarely say, what's that mean? What did you say? Like any of that stuff. It's just they hold their own in spades. So, yeah.
But it's not necessarily everywhere. Like it depends where you go in the context of the.
It totally depends where you go. And it's also generational too. There's been a generation or two of folks who have gone overseas and come back, and their English level tends to be higher. Whereas if you go to the population that's like 60 or 70 or whatnot, they may know a different language as a second language, or they may not. They may just have Putonghua under their belt, and or Shanghaiese, probably and.
Got it. Okay. And you're studying Mandarin right now, correct?
I am, yes.
Nice. How long have you been doing that?
It depends on when you start the clock.
Okay.
The first, I think it's probably safe to say about 1 year, but the first 9 months, I was playing with the language. I was kind of doing market research on mobile apps because I'm going to start in July to build my first language learning app. So I was kind of checking out to see what was out there for myself in learning the language as a beginner, as well as what I could make later if there were any gaps in the market. I spent a lot of time playing with the language the first 9 months, but some of it seeped in and made HSK1 super duper easy by the time I got there.
Nice. What is HSK for people that don't know?
HSK, which I never remember the full form for, is the official Chinese language proficiency test. It is given global, and I think there were like 6 or 7 million people globally last year that took it.
Interesting. And how many levels are there?
6. Mm-hmm. There used to be 11 or 12, but they have changed it over the past. I think the last change was 2012.
Cool. Interesting. Are you you know, you have HSK, then you have like the HSKK, right? Like the second version. Are you ever planning on taking that?
Never say never.
Okay, but not in the near future.
No, my main focus is on reading. I don't know how long I'm going to be in China, and I am much more of a reader and writer than I am speaker, despite the fact that I have all of these audio projects online. But reading comes with me, no matter where I am globally. So I really want to get my reading level up. If my speaking level accidentally catches up and I need it for any sort of employment reasons, I'll take it, but I don't have any plans for it right now.
And that's where like it's super unique, right? Like that like we're super opposite in that way, I think. I enjoy reading. Like I do read, and I read in bursts. I find I will read like 10 books in like the span of 2 months, or like 8 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever.
Sure.
And then I won't touch a book for like a year. Or like whatever it is, like however it works. I usually read in bursts. And so like I like to read and I enjoy reading and I am a reader, but when it comes to like specifically for learning like a language per se, I'm so fascinated by like almost the conversation element of it. And like being able to interact with people and talk to them and listen to them and be like, oh, they said that differently. Oh, that's so cool. Or like, oh, wow, I have an accent. I want to fix that. Like a lot of the phonetic and the sounds and the communicative.
I've noticed that in a lot of your videos. You focused a lot of time on specific phonetic issues. Yeah. I do geek out about the sounds of a language, especially when I get to a certain language level. I'll do more. No, actually, now that I've said that, I was just about to start talking about vocabulary. So I do geek out a little bit about the phonetics, but I do tend to spend more time on vocabulary and writing. And like one of my coworkers it's such a high level of simplified Mandarin Chinese that he's reading this very old book that he special ordered on how to read Chinese script. Like that, and that just like my eyes just went, oh, a new goal. It's like newspapers, social media, learn to read the script.
And I would like never never say never, I guess, but in my wildest dreams, that would not be something I would ever like. There's a book. It's like on my bookshelf back here. I ordered it. It's a language learning book. I ordered it, and like I'm told them like I need to read it. There's a specific purpose why I have to read it. I've told someone that I would read it, and like I like reading, but the fact of having to like read a language learning book, it feels like a task.
Well, okay, let me clarify, because my love of reading is two things. One, it's not necessarily reading a language learning book. Those are the least
Fair enough.
things ever. It's reading content that people produce, and people do produce that. But two, I include a very big umbrella under reading. I cheat a lot. I say read when I do audiobooks. I think read when I'm listening to other podcasts. I say read. Like there's so many different ways that content is conveyed nowadays. And I think I kind of cheat and put a lot of those into read. But a lot of them are books.
Fair enough. Yeah. So for you, like what are, so you said you're obviously focusing on, reading and writing, I think you said too, right?
Yeah, but more in the typing sense.
Okay, on the typing sense, got it. So reading and typing, let's say. Because again, we're super different in that sense where I mean, it's there. I will do, it sounds like the way that you said, okay, my speaking happens to get better at the same time as my, while I'm doing the reading and such. I'm almost opposite, where it's like, I'm going to focus mostly on speaking and listening, a lot of that. Naturally, by the nature of how things work when you learn a language, there's going to be some writing and some reading that just kind of happens to happen because I maybe had some teacher that really liked it, or maybe because like I was in some store and I had to, like I was looking at a character and really needed to figure out what that meant. Or like I keep seeing the sign washroom, so I remember those. Like there's going to be something that happens. It's learning the writing and the reading more by osmosis almost, if that makes sense.
It does.
Like, the crazy thing,
total opposite.
I think that's fine.
It is. The problem is, and I think this is one of the things, and not as a blame thing, but as a I think this is why I haven't gotten a second language under my belt, is I've been just kind of passively, although as a language teacher, I was very aggressive in making sure that all my students had different ways they could learn and being very like flexible with things. As a learner, I would just show up to a language learning classroom and go, okay, this is what we're doing, sure, and do what was there. And most language learning classrooms, I realized, were very, very focused on speaking first and that writing part coming later.
And that's really interesting, actually, because I think maybe, I don't know if everyone, but a lot, like myself or a lot of people that I've come across in general, they usually don't have a speaking first experience in classes. They usually have more of a reading and writing focus in their classes, and they don't like it because they're like, man, for years I've done these classes and I can't even order a coffee.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've been in very different classrooms.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally have, which is really, it's just fascinating.
With German, and this is like, what is that, like early 80s? I remember speaking being a huge part, not necessarily functional language that you'd want if you were in Berlin in a coffee shop, but language, like just reading out what was there or doing the cheesy dialogues with old-fashioned language.
Okay.
Like we were doing a lot of that stuff, and that was not what was pulling me in at all.
So that's interesting because a lot of, so how do I explain this? You not being interested by the reading the dialogues and the role plays and the things and the cheesy things in the textbook. Just in my experience, just for me, for people, for myself, people I've seen, that seems to align, that a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, and it just interests me anyway, is how, you know, a lot of people, myself included, almost, I interpret that more as reading practice than I do as speaking practice. Like I interpret that in my brain more as reading than I do, because I'm just literally reading out a role play. I'm not actually speaking or communicating. I'm just literally, hi, my name. I would like one apple, please. How many apples? One apple.
Because it's not your spontaneous ideas and what you want to say kind of thing. Exactly. Is that right?
Exactly. But I think we're similar in the sense that that's not necessarily fun or engaging.
No, it's not. But you know what? I really feel for the people that make language learning materials for beginners. There's only so much you can do when people don't have language. You know, like what kind of conversation? Like for HSK1, it's 150 words. The word cup, pizza, it's in there so many times. But what else are you gonna talk about? What can you talk about with 150 words? There's just such a limited, amount of stuff you can say.
Yeah, it's true. I guess it depends on how you view it, though, right? I think in my, like, this is just my my perspective on it. Like, you can have let's take the word cup, right? And like, obviously, this, more words than cup, but like, you could have a lot of fun with the word cup. You could take, like, we could put water in a cup. I could pour water on your head with the water. I'd be like, oh, look, I use let's say we had the word cup in like Spanish. Like, I'll use Spanish, right? Un vaso. I'd be like, oh, look. And I'd say it in English first. Oh, look, the vaso has water. Oh, look, the vaso put water. Like, it's funny. Like, you're right. Like, you couldn't have much conversation with it.
No,
but it is like, here's an example. Like, I was just thinking, you made me think of something. I have one particular student. It's a French student who's relatively beginner, but he has a very good brain for making connections. When he sees something like, oh, that word, like, oh, it kind of looks like that English word, or like, oh yeah, I've seen, when I see this letter combination, it often means this kind of word, or like, he makes connections very quickly.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we've been researching. We have this website we're going through. It's like 15 monsters that could fight Godzilla. In French. And we're reading it together. Yeah. And basically, he doesn't know most, I would say at least half the words, at least. But it's interesting for him to pull out some of it, and like us to try and try and decipher it. And we don't necessarily know all the grammar things, but it's interesting to see him piece it together, because he doesn't know a lot of words. Right. But Godzilla, and seeing the big creature and being like, oh, like atomic breath. Oh, that's so cool. He's a little bit younger, so, but
yeah.
So you're right, but I think it depends on how you do it,
Well, you're making me really think about this, because I like I said, I'm using HSK, and I'm using this year to get a lot of vocabulary so I can do stuff with the language, so I can read the stuff I want so I can build up the sentences I want to say. I really wonder if beginners material should just be giant vocabulary building and forget about sentences, forget about grammar at first, just get those words in our heads. Like, don't do the cheesy conversations that don't go anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe that doesn't.
And I think it just goes back to like different styles. Like, I would be driven, me as a language learner, not as a teacher, because I think I'm a little different. I like language and stuff, but me as a learner, that would drive me crazy.
Just doing vocabulary?
Oh yeah, because I'd be like, well, how would I say? What's that?
And then you could. What if you just did it for a short time, and then you could have more interesting conversations when you started to use it in full form?
Yeah, I think you're probably like, I think what you're saying has a lot of like, it's like a logically correct and accurate. It makes sense. Like if you learn words and you know how vocabulary, you don't really know the grammar, but if you say, yesterday, if you said, if you knew like yesterday, big monster, I see on road, like you understood, oh, yesterday I saw a big monster on the road. Like you immediately, even though it made no sense what I said, like you get the message across.
We really are different, because I wasn't even thinking of it being spoken. I was thinking of it as just a huge input moment. And I was thinking of it as being able to see it, to know what it meant when you saw it. And then you would kind of organically take in the structures as you were seeing the individual words you knew and taking and building up your grammar kind of organically. So that's interesting. I went straight to a page and you went straight to a conversation.
I went straight to like big monster on the street. And then the second place my brain went is like me ordering food in a restaurant. I was like, I don't know why such odd extremities, but that's like the second place my brain went.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we're definitely quite different. But anyway, let's I guess the moral of the story, and maybe you got a different takeaway than me, I don't know, but like it just seems like it's so funny, because I think you know this because we were talking about it. This was not at all the original plan of what I thought we'd be talking about, but it's funny as we're talking before, it's like, holy cow, I think we're really opposite when it comes to language learning. And it's just so interesting. I thought this would be a cool, it'd be cool. It's just cool to have this out there, to literally see such a huge contrast. And it's totally like you could go either way. Like you could do, like, I've met people that just like you, who like to do more reading and don't really care as much about the speaking or the listening at first. If they learn it, then great. But either way, it's like trying to climb like some hiking trail, but you have two options, like still gets you to where you're trying to go, Yeah. And it's almost like there's different peaks, right? It's like this path leads you to this peak and you get this kind of awesome view. This path leads you to this other really awesome peak, which has a different view, which is equally awesome. And you're in different places and you have different really cool views. This view has really cool trees that are like really wonky and like has like purple leaves. But then this one has like the most biggest gorgeous lake and like whatever. And it's not that this place is better than this place or anything. It's just like they're just different beauties, if that makes sense.
Exactly. No, it makes complete sense. The trick is not to demotivate yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And by me going to these classes where speaking was emphasized and conversation, those 5 questions when you go to a country: where are you from, are you married, do you have children, but what, blah blah blah, those questions, those are always the first few weeks of a class, and I'm just like, this doesn't keep my attention right now. Of course I will have those conversations, but those questions are generally not the hardest thing to pick up anyway. So can we move on to something meaty and interesting?
Interesting. And I'm the opposite. I love that stuff, because then what I'll do is, well, as soon as fun story, we wrap it up here, but like I love that stuff when I can know some of those basic super simple conversations. I'll just go talk to people and have that conversation. Like I remember I was in Peru and I used to walk into markets and I didn't want to buy anything, but I would stop in like every store and be like, hi. He'd be like, hi. I'd be like, how are you? He'd be like, I'm good. And you? I'd be like, I'm really good. How much is that? They'd be like, oh, it's this much. Oh, that's too expensive. Can you give me a cheaper price? He'd be like, yeah, how about this? Maybe. I'll think about it. Bye. Next door. Hi, how are you? How much is that? Oh, that's too expensive.
Oh.
I loved it. I'd be so like, oh, this is so much fun.
Oh my gosh, we are so different.
But no, totally. I think you're right. So Anyway, yeah. Any closing thoughts on your end?
Just find out what works for you and keep going. Again, that motivation thing.
Yeah, totally.
If a certain way is not working and you find yourself putting your materials, whatever they are, away because it's not working, put them really away and go find something else and go figure out a different way to work on it. The thing is now, there's so many different ways to study a language with the magic information box and all this kind of stuff and our mobile devices and online tutoring. And there's so many different ways. And in-person people too. I mean, we've got all kinds of ways, traditional and otherwise, and it's just a matter of finding what works and going forward with that.
Totally, for sure. Well, we definitely align on that final point.
Yay!
Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Stephanie's social links and all of the stuff is in the description below. She just launched a podcast recently called Changing Scripts on iTunes. I put a link in the description for that. Also, her Twitter and Instagram and YouTube is there as well. So thanks for taking the time. And we'll chat later.
All right. Sajian.